Hey, I'm back. My name's Bryn. If you haven't seen my videos, I make videos about gender identity and gender transition, and I also make videos about cystic fibrosis. This particular video is going to be all about my 1 year on Trikafta, which I'm assuming if you're watching the video, you sort of know what it is, but if not, it's a medication that helps to fix the root of the problem when it comes to cystic fibrosis, and about 90% of CF patients are eligible to take it. Well, patients above like 12, I think, are eligible to take it. It doesn't work with some mutations, but it works with most. And it's been a year on it, so I want to talk about all the differences, because well, actually, it's been a year, 2 weeks, and 2 days, but I want to talk about it because, one, I don't think I've made an update since, I think it was like 7.5 months, so it's been a little while, and also, I mean, it's 1 year, so I just want to kind of go over everything. I did have someone that reached out to me on one of the previous videos, I don't remember which one, but they had said that they would like to see kind of a day in the life of the differences between the day in the life of Bryn pre-Trikafta and post-Trikafta. So I'm gonna try to go over what my day would look like before Trikafta, and then I'm gonna go over what my days look like now. So before Trikafta, my lungs and my weight were terrible. I spent, every other month I would go into the hospital to get IV antibiotics, and I would spend 3 weeks on them each time. So I did the math, and I spent a third of 2019 on antibiotics, which the nice thing, not really, it's not nice to be on antibiotics, but one of the perks that I'm able to have is that I can do them at home. So what I would usually do is I'd go into the hospital for up to about a week, and then I'd finish out the course at home. Now they actually allow me to start and finish the course at home, so I don't even have to go into the hospital, which is nice, unless they're going to use antibiotics that they don't normally use. But I'm almost always on the same ones. Before Trikafta, I, at best, was 105 pounds. At worst, I was 95 pounds. Typically, I would get up to, I think the highest I got to in 2019 was 108 pounds. On my shitty scale, that's probably wrong anyways. But it was, I'm 5'6", so to be a healthy weight, I had to be 118 pounds, and I could only get up to 108, and that was on antibiotics, because I would be feeling healthier, and as soon as the antibiotics would finish, I would start to deplete, and usually every time I went in the hospital, I was between 95 and 100 pounds, which is scarcely thin. Put up a few pictures so you can see the difference in my face and in my body as well. I might have to take, no, I'm sure I have pictures of my body, but just so you can really see the difference, because it's very different. Back then, I want to say, back before Trikafta, I basically slept forever. I would, well, I couldn't sleep through the night because of all my coughing. So basically what would happen is I took a zillion naps, basically. I would, let's say if I wasn't doing anything during the day, I think all I would do was lay in bed and sleep, if I remember correctly. But I would wake up every 2 to 3 hours because I'm coughing, or sometimes even less, and then I'd have to lay back down, and it was very difficult. I was just talking with my girlfriend about it the other day, and she was like, yeah, I was just thinking about when we first started dating, because we started seeing each other. We met in March of 2019. the fling started in like July, and then we made it official in October of 2019. And I didn't start my Trikafta until November. She was like, yeah, like I remember you would lay down for like 2 minutes and sit up coughing, and like I just, it was hard to sleep. It was hard to stay asleep because I would cough all the time. And like the coughing, like I would cough for like a minute straight. Everyone thought I was dying. My face would turn bright red, like, and it was just what I was used to. But if you like didn't know me and you saw that happening, you'd probably be very concerned. I also, right before, like literally the week before I started Trikafta, I was evaluated for a lung transplant. And the day after I finished that is when I started Trikafta, I'm pretty sure. Or maybe 2 days. I know they called me the day after. I don't know. But anyways. And they told me that I could go on the list, but I was kind of like on the line. Which was honestly really surprising because I felt like shit. Like I really felt like I was dying. I felt like my life was losing value. I'll get into more of that after I talk about the physical stuff. But I really I was like, how can anyone be sicker than this? And they're like, no, like you're good for the spectrum that you're supposed to be on to get a transplant. I'm on the upper side of it. And since I was starting Trikafta, they were like, I don't think we should put you on because you're probably going to get better, which is what happened. So my weight was really low. My lung function, if you're looking at numbers, I think the worst lung function test I ever had was 22%, which is compared to other people who are my age, my sex, and my height. So 100% would be I'm average. I was 22%, so that's less than a quarter of my lungs worked less than a fourth of the amount that someone else's did. And at best, I think I hit like 35 or 36%, which is a lot better. That's over a third, but it's still like not a lot. And so it was just really bad. I also couldn't eat. I was supposed to eat extra because when you have CF, you need extra calories in order to gain weight because your body doesn't absorb them correctly. And I could barely eat the minimum, like the same amount as like a regular person, like the average 2,000 calorie a day diet or whatever that people are supposed to follow in order to be healthy. I could barely, like if I hit 2,000, it was a good day because I was so sick, and with being sick, I was so depressed. And one of the first things to go, not so much anymore, but back then, was my appetite. The other thing is my diabetes. My diabetes is pretty bad. I don't have numbers to compare it to now, and I'll get into that, but it was, I mean, it wasn't like the worst, but I would eat and my blood sugar would jump up to 300 or 400. I don't think I really hit 500 that much, but I would eat and I would have to like nap right afterwards. That was basically the only time that I actually slept well because my blood sugars would be so high that I would just like basically pass the fuck out. To give you a bit of like ideas, or like a visual representation, because saying, oh, my lungs work at 22%, compared to other people my age, sex, and height, it doesn't necessarily give you like a representation of what that looks like. Just so you know, I am breathing a little rough today. It's partially because I'm wearing a binder, which is kind of tight, and because somehow for the last 2 days, I have missed my morning doses of, well, all my medicine, but specifically Trikafta. So my lungs are a little flustered today, because I've missed 2 days worth. Don't even know how I did that, but so normally I am breathing better than this. It's just, of course I would pick the day after missing 2 doses of Trikafta to film a video about how great Trikafta is. But it really is great. So the way that my lungs would work before, sitting up would make me cough, laying down would make me cough, standing up would make me out of breath and I'd have to sit down. It was hard to get dressed. I would, for the most part, have to sit down in my bed to put my pants on and my shirt on. When I stood, it was like I only had like 10 seconds before I would feel like I had to sit down again. Like it was like, it wasn't all consistent because I was on and off antibiotics the entire year of 2019. But when I wasn't on antibiotics and I was sick, like, it was hard to walk. I would stand up and walk from my bed to the door in like a regular apartment. It's not like some fancy bougie ass fucking place where it's like a whole mile to your fucking door. Like, it was literally like 5 or 6 feet and I would be like out of breath getting to the fucking door or going to the bathroom or doing anything ever. Like, seriously, I couldn't do anything. Which takes a toll on your body, but it also really took a heavy toll on me mentally, and it was very difficult because, so cystic fibrosis, one of the terrible things about it is that you're not supposed to be around other people with the disease. So, like, there was a girl that I went to elementary through high school with, and we always had to, like, write to the principals and make sure that we weren't in the same classroom because basically there's certain germs that can manifest in our lungs that don't manifest in other people's lungs, and they can be passed between us, but not really between other people. And so, like, if I gave it to, like, my girlfriend who doesn't have CF, it would basically just die. But if I gave it to that girl that I was talking about who went to school with me, she could get really sick just like me. So we had to stay apart, and the only way to really communicate with other people with CF is through internet or calling or texting or like whatever, but like, how am I going to get people's phone numbers if I don't know them? And I really didn't feel connected with the CF community. I felt kind of like a failure because it was so hard for me to take care of myself because I had no mental energy, I had no physical energy, and with CF there's extra things you have to do to take care of yourself, and I couldn't even meet the basic necessities of being a regular human, let alone a human with CF. And it was really difficult, not to mention, like I said, I was very depressed. Because I was so sick, it was hard for me to hang out with people. It, you know, was a chore to go get dressed and go see people and like whatever. On top of that, when I was there, I would many times be so sick that I didn't feel like I was having fun, which I was okay with, but then I felt like I was making other people feel like bad, like, oh, Bryn's not having fun, and it was like I just felt like no matter what I did, I was miserable, or I was like nothing good was happening, and it was really, really, like, bad, is the easiest way to explain it. I was definitely very suicidal, consistently suicidal. I still struggle with that because I have bipolar disorder, but back before I started Trikafta, I was consistently suicidal, consistently depressed. I just felt worthless. I felt like my life was like withering away to nothing because all I was doing was laying in bed. Everything just felt really like gray and bleh, and it was not a life that I wanted to live. I think that's everything pre-Trikafta. I was able to work some, but it was still difficult. Like, if I was just standing, I would be okay, but getting up and walking and all that stuff was kind of difficult, was very difficult. But I was working, I was doing hair, I still do hair, but I had to cut my hours back a few times. I used to actually be the manager of a salon, and I had to cut my hours back and step down because I couldn't work a 40-hour week. So then I was working a 24-hour week, and that was still too much. So I cut my hours down to 12 hours a week and started applying for disability, which I got in May. Thank the fucking Lord, that makes things so much easier. Now that we're done with all that depressing stuff, let's talk about how things have changed. So, physically, my lung function, the last time I got it tested when I was in the hospital, it was up to 48%, and that was while I was sort of sick. So after a course of antibiotics, it was probably higher, I'm assuming in the 50s. I do have a portable one that I have at home that is hooked up to like Bluetooth, so I can send the information to my doctor. It's interesting. But it feels different than the one, like you basically breathe into it, but the one in the hospital has this like foam barrier, and so you're kind of pushing against it, whereas this one is just basically like an open hole, like you're just blowing into thin air. And so I don't know, I think it's a little bit off, but the last time I did that, it was in the 60s. So if that's accurate, that's pretty fucking awesome. But maybe not, I don't know. But I'm not getting it done in the hospital because I'm not going to the hospital anymore. Plus, they are being very picky about who's coming in for appointments and stuff like that because of COVID and blah, 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 blah. But yeah, so physically my lung function is way higher. I can walk upstairs. The other day, actually on Thanksgiving, my girlfriend and I went on a 4-mile hike. And I mean, I was a little bit out of breath, but like, it didn't really like last, you know, like it was fine. And back, for the beginning of the pandemic, for like, what, 4 or 5 months? I don't know. I was living in State College, Pennsylvania, and I would go on walks for 3 or 4 hours and I'd be fine. Like, I could literally do anything, like, okay, not anything, but it's a lot easier for me to get around. Sometimes I do run out of breath. Sometimes I get tired before other people, but it's not something that like prohibits me really from doing much. It just kind of takes a little bit longer for me to do some things. In terms of my weight, I just weighed myself this morning and I'm 127 pounds. I've been right around 130. The Trikafta, I'm going to say, got me up to about 120, and I started some medication. I know I mentioned this, but I was diagnosed with bipolar back in the springtime. I think it was, or maybe it was, I want to say it was like April or something, March, April, I don't know, but I was diagnosed with bipolar, and I'm on 2 medications now, and one of them, one of the side effects is weight gain or increased appetite, so that has kind of been the cause of the extra 7 to 10 pounds. But still, it's like there's clothes that don't fit me anymore. And it's like, I've never had that happen. It was like the other way where everything was always too big. Even like an extra small at Walmart was too big. And it was just frustrating. But now like there's stuff that I can't even wear anymore because I've grown out of it. And like, that's a great feeling. Well, not for everybody, but for me, it's a great feeling. For someone with CF, that's probably a great feeling. Also, I know I mentioned this in the beginning because I make videos about being trans, but I have been on hormones now for almost 4.5 years, estrogen and testosterone blockers. Before Trikafta, I was so underweight that like I basically there was no fat redistribution to have because I had no fat. So as I've gained weight, it's actually very interesting because I look at myself before I started hormone replacement therapy, and I look at myself now, because before, when I was in high school, I was 130 pounds, but I wasn't on HRT. So by the time I was on HRT long enough to really have the effects of it, I didn't have enough weight to really have the effects of it. So gaining weight has really like put things in a new light, because of where all the fat on my body and on my face is going, and I feel so much better about the way that I look. In terms of gender and just in general, I feel like I look better. I don't know. I mean, maybe not, but that's just my opinion. So that's really nice. I also have a little butt, which is nice because I didn't have that before. I really like the way my face has filled out and stuff like that. I think that's all for the weight gain. It's also how, well, I'll get to that then. My diabetes. So I know I said earlier I don't have exact numbers, and the reason for that is I don't know that it's fixed my diabetes completely, but what I noticed when I started Trikafta, one of the side effects is low blood sugars. Yes, that is what I'm trying to say. Low blood sugars. And what was happening with me, it didn't matter how much insulin I would take, I always ended up getting low. And I do not like having a low blood sugar. It feels like I'm about to fall over. Like, it's just not a good feeling. And from my understanding, and I may be wrong, and if you have CF and take Trikafta and you like know more than I do, please let me know. But my understanding is that my pancreas, I wasn't diabetic for very long, so there wasn't, I guess, like a whole lot of damage to it. But basically, my pancreas is delayed, so I do get the insulin, because I was checking my blood sugars for a little while, and normally when you eat, within 2 hours, your blood sugar should be back to a normal range. For me, it was taking about 3 hours. But what was happening was I would eat, and then I would take insulin, and then my body would produce the insulin that it was supposed to produce, and I'd basically get extra insulin, and then my blood sugar would go low. So I stopped taking, that was probably in March or something that I stopped taking insulin, because I was just like so tired of it. I'm so tired of having a low blood sugar. But I can tell, like, I'll eat it every once in a while. I'll eat and feel super tired, but for the most part, I eat and I'm fine, which is awesome. Mentally, I have been feeling so much better. Like I said, the whole weight gain thing has given me much more confidence. I feel like, I don't know, I just feel like I look healthy. Whereas before, everyone would have to make a comment about how skinny I was, or how sick I looked, or like random fucking strangers. Like, I'd be like working in the salon and some random ass person would come and sit in my chair and tell me I needed to eat a cheeseburger. People were just very like insensitive, and I guess they thought that since they weren't calling me fat, that it wasn't an insult, but like, it was rude. And I don't know why people feel the need to comment on other people's bodies when they don't know what's going on. But yeah, so it gave me much more confidence in that sense. Not only do I feel like I look better and more healthy, I also feel like I look less masculine, which is very nice, because a lot of my dysphoria around my gender and stuff is caused by the fact/idea that I feel as though I look masculine. So having the body fat redistribute on my face as more round, the hormones basically weren't doing much of anything, just because I was so sick. Like, there was no way that it was gonna do anything. So my mental health has been a lot better. And on top of that, I hopefully am getting bottom surgery soon, but that was kind of off the table when I was sick, which was also a part of my depression, because I have a lot of dysphoria around my genitals, and basically I had to be at least 120 pounds in order to be healthy enough to get surgery, and like the chances of that happening before Trikafta was basically 0, because I just kept getting lower and lower. I felt like I was trapped in a body that I don't connect with it. And there was no way out. There was no hope. There was no, like, whatever. Like, the best case scenario was that I'd get a lung transplant and a few years later I might be able to get surgery. But the Trikafta has really helped, and now I've been in the process of hopefully getting it. I got all my letters. I have a consultation in 2 weeks with a surgeon not too far away. Like, I'm hoping that goes well, but that's kind of a side note. But I'm just saying, like, the things that I envisioned for my life, I'm able to pursue rather than just sit around and cry and sleep all day. I think that was just about everything, honestly. Oh, God. I'm like, I've been growing out my patch for like almost a year. It was like the middle or end of January was the last time that I buzzed it. And like, it's long enough now that it's really fucking annoying. Because I was just tucking it behind my ear, but now it's like rubbing against my neck and stuff. And it's just like so annoying. So I like want it to grow out more so I can just put it in the bun back here. But yeah, I don't know. Everything is so much better with Trikafta. Like, just everything. Everything is more manageable. Everything is manageable at all. Like, before I felt like I couldn't manage anything. I couldn't manage my relationships. I couldn't manage my life. I couldn't manage my health. I couldn't manage my work. I like literally just felt like a pile of shit sitting there doing nothing. And it felt like really worthless, or made me feel really worthless. And I never view other people that way if they have like disabilities or health conditions that like don't permit them to like work, or don't permit them to like, you know, have a whole lot of energy, or like whatever the fucking case. Like, but when I looked at myself, I felt like I wish I could do so much more with my life, and I just couldn't, and it felt very hopeless and very sad. And there's a lot of freedom that has come into my life since I started Trikafta, and I'm so thankful for that. Yeah, so I think that's all I have to say. But yeah, Trikafta has been a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful journey. Yeah, alrighty. Peace out.